What's going on, everybody? Your favorite Earth Realm fighters are back. It's me, Uncle Henry Hill, and my mate over here.
I'm Kano. Grab me a fucking beer, lads.
What's going on, everybody? We're here to review the newest film. The big HBO Max premiere of Mortal Kombat happened this past weekend, and me and Uncle Logan here were lucky enough to have the HBO Max, and we were able to watch this film and review it. And we were both huge fans of the original game series back in the 90s. I mean,
Yes.
How nostalgic does it get? Am I right? I mean, I had this game for Sega back in the day, and I was probably, around 10 years old.
Yeah.
And obviously this game was blood and guts, and it was the first really graphic video game back in the day. And now it's on the big screen again. Of course, we had one film, but this is a reboot. So we get better graphics and better, obviously a better story, better CGI done and everything. So yeah, how do you feel about revisiting this classic series that we grew up with?
Man, I was so fucking excited for the new Mortal Kombat movie. I've been counting down the days. I thought it came out a few weeks ago, but they pushed it back. So you could say I've been really excited for this. Like you said, we grew up on the video games in the 90s. It was like one of the first video games I remember playing like over and over again. Thousands of hours, like getting wrapped up in these characters. The goriness of the video game, and then seeing the movies come out in the 90s, and then 20 years later having the reboot come out. So I was very excited for it. And overall, I had a pretty good time with it. In terms of the effects, the fatalities were awesome. I came for like an R-rated Mortal Kombat movie, and that's what we got. It was a really fun time. Characters were pretty lackluster, but I came for the fights, and the fights were top-notch.
Absolutely. We were here for the fights. Kind of expected the acting not to be obviously up to snuff. It's a movie about a video game. So what do you expect, really? I mean, we're not going to expect Oscar-worthy acting or anything like that. Yeah. Which is what kind of leads me to give the first half of the movie a lesser grade than I graded the second half, just because we don't get a lot of fights, in the beginning. We get a couple of action sequences. We get our introduction to the main character, Cole Young. But first of all, in the movie, we see basically in the very beginning, we see our introduction to Scorpion. And the story between him and Sub-Zero and their beef from way back in the day. And we see that through their fight and everything, there's basically an orphan that's left. Through their fight, Scorpion ends up getting killed by Sub-Zero, and he's able to hide this child that he has with his wife, and the child's hidden, and Sub-Zero doesn't get to him. So the story picks up after this, years later. And we pick up with Cole Young, who's an up and coming MMA fighter who's, actually doing mixed martial arts in real life, like the UFC. He's doing arm bars and all the moves, he's fighting like it's an actual cage fight. So this is who we're following through the film. It's through this character's eyes, and we're sort of following him. And we meet some other characters that we know and love from the video game series.
And from the get-go, with the introduction of Cole, he's probably the weakest link in this movie, and a character you really don't give a shit about. But we do get introduced to a bunch of familiar faces: Sonya Blade, Jax, Raiden, which was pretty lackluster.
And was that Jax or Steve Harvey? I wasn't sure.
Kind of look like Steve Harvey. And they did Jax wrong in this movie, but we're reintroduced to a lot of the characters, obviously from the video games, and assembling this team, and then going against the Outworld, having to do with Shang Tsung, and bringing all the bad guys to fight.
Yeah, it's just like the game. We had a lot of characters that we saw from the original video game series, mainly the first one, minus Johnny Cage in this one. He wasn't in it. But we saw a lot of those original fighters, which included Goro, the villain, obviously the big four-armed villain, who is done heavily CGI in this. It
looks terrible.
Yeah, it didn't look great. I'm gonna be honest with you. The CGI on Goro wasn't that great at all. When he was introduced, I kind of was like, oh geez, this isn't starting out well. But luckily, as the movie progressed, it got better. We got to know Jax in the beginning and Sonya Blade. They're kind of the really good guys in this film. And Sonya had Kano as her prisoner there, and we learned about Kano. Kano provided a lot of the comedic relief in this film, and honestly, he was the highlight for the film for me. Just how funny he was, and some of the the one-liners and things that he said, and even when he did his patented fatality from the movie, which he did, he he added some comedy flavor to it. So I was happy with his character. He was funny overall. It helped take away from the bad dialogue and acting in the very beginning in the first half of the film, which was basically all acting. There were a couple action sequences, but everything was leading to or halfway mark of this film and where the fights began with all the characters we know and love. So yeah, I really enjoyed Kano in the film. I thought this Australian actor, was very funny.
Kano was definitely the best part there for the comedic relief. He was such a big doofus throughout the film. He was there for all the great one-liners and kind of busting the chops of the rest of the gang. And the actor that played him, he did a really great job. Probably the best character in the film, in my opinion. The main character, Cole, just there's nothing to him. He was really wooden as an actor too. A lot of it had to do with the writing, but I don't think the actor was very good in the role. He didn't give a shit about him, and he's like the main character in the film, the main focal point, getting this crew together and fighting the bad guys. But you just never really got attached to that character, which is really disappointing. Hopefully they'll fix that in the next film.
I hope so. Yeah, they should fix this for sure. I don't know why they chose to go with like an unknown person to lead us into this first one. It was kind of head scratching to me. Apparently it had to do with the script writing and all that. I don't know why they wanted to include some unknown person to have, obviously, to have Scorpion's bloodline in the film, which that's the purpose he serves in the film. And he kind of, everybody, basically the whole point of the movie, they end up going to this, they learn about Mortal Kombat. They each had this little brand on their arm besides Sonya Blade. And basically they're all tied to this other realm of fighting. And they have to go and seek their arcana, which is basically all their magic, their powers that they have when they're fighting. So like, Scorpion, obviously he can summon the dragon. And everybody has this marking, which is the dragon on their arm. It's a dragon tattoo. They have to figure out what this is all about. And it leads into Shang Tsung coming down and all the evil spirits and all the bad fighters and that, and them going head to head against the heroes played by Jax, Sonya Blade, and Cole Young in this film. So they have to find their arcana. They have to unlock it somehow. So we see Cole Young unlock his arcana, which is kind of weird. Like his superpowers were kind of stupid. I thought he got some I don't know, size, I guess you can call them, on his wrists that he fought with, and somehow he was a badass. But yeah, I found his just overall the
so
whole
boring.
thing. Yeah, boring. Jax got his patented metal arms from the film. He gets his arms ripped off in the beginning, which is very cool. All the CGI from Sub-Zero, I thought all the ice, all that stuff looked really cool, like really well done CGI. Yeah, that was the best stuff that didn't look, it looked actually real. Like, it didn't take me away from the film like some of the other CGI. But yeah, he gets his arms ripped off by Sub-Zero, so he gets the metal arms. And it's funny because he starts out with really skinny, dinky metal arms.
They look like paper clips.
Yeah.
You ever unwind those in school? They unwind the paper clip. That's what it looked like. Little baby arms.
Yeah, very skinny. And there's a joke about how skinny his arms are. But eventually they get to be the huge ones, and he does his patented fatality, which was really cool, where he smashes the head in between the arms. So we got to see some really cool fatalities, which I was happy about, and which made the movie. That was mainly what I wanted to see. I wanted to see some of the fatalities, how they were going to do that. I wanted to see some of the gore from the video game, because let's face it, we're here for the video game, man. I mean, we want to see a good representation of the video game, as well as they can make it into a movie. And I thought they did that here as much as they could. I didn't really like Cole Young, but as far as the other characters that we know and love, I thought they did a good job overall. Noob Saibot's played by Damon Harriman, which I recognized. I had to look him up, but he was on Justified, and he actually played Charles Manson there for a little bit. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he was supposed to have a bigger role. He was also Charles Manson in Mindhunter, so he did the voice of Noob Saibot there.
Really?
I had to look that up, which was cool. I was wondering who did the voice for his character, but yeah, he's one of the villains along with Shang Tsung. We also got to see Shang Tsung's fatality, the soul sucker, where he sucks the soul out and it's basically left the skeleton of his victim.
Yeah, and I didn't really like his character in this movie either. I thought he was really lackluster and not like
Yeah,
scary at all. And
no,
like sinister like the actor in the original movie, which was I thought he was great as Shang Tsung, but in this movie he was just really not believable in the role.
no. I think the actor that should have played him should have been a little older for one, because in the first game he was an older person. This guy kind of just looked like he was had a wig on. It didn't look
Yeah,
real. And
I thought
his acting, he wasn't menacing at all. He wasn't a good villain.
I for some odd reason I saw the actor recently. I thought it was like in a Christopher Nolan movie, but yeah, he has short hair. Obviously, it's a wig, so it's not believable. I just didn't really think he was as menacing as the Shang Tsung from the other movies and video games. Like, he just didn't have that presence on screen.
No, it should have been a lot better for sure for being the main villain. Yeah. And Goro too. Yeah. So basically the
Yeah,
two main villains weren't done very well. Luckily, I don't know, you could kind of make a point that Sub-Zero is the main villain of the film. He did a good job, luckily. I like the Sub-Zero character. It's
yeah,
probably
and
one
it
of
had a
the
lot of horror movie elements to it in regards to like Sub Zero showing up, the ice kind of forming on the windows, and you could kind of see the smoke coming in. Like, oh my God, Sub Zero's coming! We need to hide. It had that horror movie vibe to
I
it,
did.
and
That looked awesome. I thought so too.
James Wan being the producer on the film, it definitely had some of the Wan vibes to it, which I absolutely loved. It was fucking dark at times, and I wish they would have kept that going throughout the film. It wasn't really cohesive. It was like choppy. It didn't have an overall cohesive tone to it, so kind of all over the place.
It could have been better. Obviously, they could have done more with this film. I mean, I was expecting more just because all the hype behind it, but I wasn't totally disappointed with it. And I think that if they do, and hopefully they get a sequel with this, and we get to see some other characters from the film, and maybe even get a different director, hopefully a better story written, not so focused on this Cole Young now that we know he's about. I mean, they can bring him back if they want, but it's not that important. But yeah, at the very end of the film, after the credits, or not after the credits, I guess before the credits roll, we find out that there's going to be another character coming. So if they do a sequel, this character should come into the sequel, and it'll be cool. There's been some actors out there and wrestling personalities that have been vying for the role that they sort of tease at the end here, and that'll be cool to see because we saw him in the 1995 Mortal Kombat movie, and he's obviously a main character. And we're talking about Johnny Cage.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't show up in this film, and that's a lot of people's favorite character there. It's just this Hollywood kind of karate D-bag who kind of has to redeem himself through the tournament. So that'll be cool to see. Hopefully there is a sequel. Hopefully they, learn from the mistakes of this one. But, there's a lot to love in this film. I thought, the fatalities were well done for the most part. The CGI with Sub-Zero especially looked great. The fatalities looked good overall. There was a couple really brutal ones.
Hell yeah.
Kung Lao's with his hat, with
Yes.
his hat
Yes.
with the blade on it was really cool.
That was one of my favorite ones. That was awesome.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of that
absolutely,
guy's name. I didn't remember him from the games. I
Kung Lao.
Yeah,
Oh
Kung
yeah.
Lao.
I'm trying to think which one I want to say.
Was he in 2?
Yeah, I want to say probably 2 and forward. He was in it. Yep, he comes in. I think he has a backstory with Liu Kang, if I'm not mistaken, but maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, I really like that fatality. That was awesome. Jax is obviously with the head smash was really brutal. We got to see Kano's. It was I guess when he was fighting Reptile, which was kind of weird because they never showed the human form of Reptile, which was kind of what made it badass. He was this guy that looked like Sub-Zero and Scorpion. He had a green sort of karate suit, but he would morph into this like reptile.
Like a lizard kind of thing.
Yeah, lizard. So we got to see Kano's fatality. Yeah, we got to see a lot of badass fatalities. So I was happy with that. They're definitely in the sequel, we could see more. I don't know. Overall, this film was pretty good for me. It wasn't great. I was expecting a little more, but it wasn't totally disappointing. I wasn't looking at it from a normal perspective, obviously, like we do with some of the other movies we do, obviously, with well-known directors and more serious tone, not coming from a video game adaptation. But overall, I had a good time with it, especially the second half moving forward. The first half, I thought was really bad.
Could have done without.
Yeah, I could have done without and kind of cringed through some of it, but once the action kicked in towards the end, I was all for it. So overall, I'm going to give Mortal Kombat, the newest film from Warner Brothers, I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 Shang Tsung hair pieces. Outer realm.
And your score actually went up from when you watched it. It
Yeah.
was 2.5.
Initially, I was going to say 2.5, but I'd probably give the first half a 2 out of 5, and the second half probably a 3 or a 3.5. So overall, I'd say 3.5. Yeah, I'll move it up. The second half's definitely a lot better, for sure. So I just enjoyed the second half better once they started fighting and got away from the cheesy kind of backstory. Because honestly, Cole Young, after finding out who he was, I wasn't surprised in the slightest. Obviously, at the very beginning, I was like, okay, yeah, I'm pretty sure I know who this is right away, and there wasn't any secret there. So, but the second half was awesome. I liked all the fighting. Let's get some more badass fighters in the second one and see some more of those fatalities. That's what I'm saying.
For sure. I think they were saying that they wanted to do this as a trilogy, so I'm all for that. I want them to fix a lot of the mistakes. And I would, me discussing this movie with you, it sounds like I really hated the movie. I actually really enjoyed it. I thought I was on the side of the fence of people enjoying it more than hating it. I really did. I was super excited for this. I went into the movie just to have fun. I don't give a fuck about character development and all this crap. Unknown actors. I was hoping for unknown actors to play these characters. And I think they did a pretty good job. Some of the characters I just were there. They're kind of in the background.
Yeah.
Didn't really need them. Cole Young being the main focal point was unneeded. With that being said, I like the other characters returning. Sonya Blade, Kano, Jax. I thought he was pretty cool. Raiden was wasted. He was really tiny. Didn't really have much to do in the film. Liu Kang, it really annoyed me. Looked like some actor with a wig on. So I didn't really get attached. But with other characters in the film showing up, but they're pretty good. But the best parts were the fatalities, the fight scene, and that's what I came for anyways. So I thought the CGI for the most part looked really good. Sub-Zero was fucking awesome. I loved all the scenes with him, with his effects, even Scorpion at the end. He was there for a few minutes. But the scene with him and Sub-Zero was awesome. And then also hearing, "Get over here," the voice.
That was great. Yep. I enjoyed those scenes with him and Sub-Zero. If they could have elaborated on those scenes a little more, I think they would have had more of a story. You know how they kind of started with that and then they ended with that. I thought there was more to that than just having it be about Cole Young. I think there's some history there that they could have explored a little more. But I did like their fight scenes were like the most memorable to me.
Yeah, because they're the most famous characters from the game, and they're the best. So if they would have had them in the film a lot more, I think it would have carried it more.
Right.
Had a better reaction from the critics, and overall a better film. But a lot of it has to do with the first-time director, Simon McQuoid, making his directorial debut, which is probably not a good idea for Mortal Kombat. Maybe somebody more known, but whatever. They'll learn from their mistakes, and some of the script is kind of silly. But again, I'm going into a video game movie. I'm going to have fun. I want to see gore. I want to see heads flying off, fatalities, and have a good time. And I pretty much did have a good time with this. First half a little slow, but it got better, like you're saying, in the second half. So with that being said, I'll give the new Mortal Kombat a 3 out of 5 Sub-Zero hair pieces.
Yeah, so overall we both, had our problems with the film, but we also liked a lot of the parts of the film, and the main parts that we wanted to see were the fighting scenes.
Yep.
And some of that, and the strong characters were strong, and the weak characters had their bad moments and everything. But overall, we really enjoyed this film. I can't wait to see the sequel. I hope we see somebody get cast for Johnny Cage pretty soon. I think it had a pretty successful weekend, especially considering we're still in the pandemic. But movies are opening up, and it did pretty well at the box office. And I'm sure a lot of people signed up to HBO Max just to view the film. So good on it. I hope to see a part 2, and hopefully they can just, give us more of the action. Maybe have Johnny Cage obviously going to be coming in. Let's see who they cast for that. And I'm down for more Mortal Kombat. It makes me want to go back and play the original video games.
Yeah,
so much fun back in the day, just playing with your friend, and especially going one-on-one with your buddy. That's the best. I have I just got a Mortal Kombat 11 for PlayStation 5, so I got back into that nostalgic feeling. And let me tell you, Mortal Kombat 11, some of those fatalities are just insane. Like, if there's ever a movie that shows some of those, like, forget about it, dude. Yeah, take Mortal Kombat 1 and the first, trilogy or whatever, take all the worst fatalities and like multiply them by 100. They're crazy. And even some of the non-fatality moves are brutal too. Like, yeah, it's insane, the fatalities on Mortal Kombat 11. So the series is still going strong. Mortal Kombat's alive and well. Yeah. So this has been another awesome review. It's been fun, Logan. Thanks for talking to me about Mortal Kombat, man. I had a good time with this film. I'm glad we both enjoyed it for the most part. And
Yep.
we're karate fans at heart. I think we like all the cheesy old Jean-Claude Van Damme movies from the 80s and stuff. So it was cool to
80s
see
action.
another film like this back up on the screen.
Yeah, because we haven't had a lot of these, 2021. It's a different time. It's not the 80s or 90s. We don't have the cheesy over the top action movies or action stars like we used to have, but it's nice revisiting, old films and films that pay homage to the films that we grew up on. And obviously the original Mortal Kombat video game, which really set the bar pretty high for video games. Definitely one of the greatest video games ever made, and was the introduction of video games for me, being a young kid playing Sega.
It's been a blast revisiting this classic franchise. Mortal Kombat, in my opinion, was better than the Street Fighter, franchise.
Yeah.
There's Super Nintendo and there's Sega, and for me it was Sega and it was Mortal Kombat. So until you unless you want to argue with me, I'll go on that all day. Mortal Kombat was my game back in the day, especially the original one, Mortal Kombat 1. Loved it, and had a good time with this movie, and had a great time reviewing this film with you, brother. Until our next Cinephellas review, this has been me and Uncle Logan Myers over there. I'm Frank Dukes.
And I'm Kano. And cheers until next time, boys. Cheers.
Kano wins. You fucking beauty.